This is the 11th of June 2013 non-calculator higher exam paper. Question number 1. Let me zoom in. Given that 1,793 times 185 equals 331,705, write down the value of the following. It's all about moving the decimal point in this one. Let me show you what I've done. For the first one, the 185 stays the same, but they've moved the decimal point 3 spaces this way in the 1,793. So on the answer, you've also got to move the decimal point 3 spaces to there. So it's 331.705. For the next one, you've got to divide. It's pretty much what's gone on up here, but it's the other way around. Instead, this time they've moved the decimal point on the 185. They've moved it in 2 spaces that way. That means the answer, which is going to look something like this, is going to be 2 decimal points bigger. So it goes the other way 2 spaces. So it's 179,300. That's quite nasty for a question 1. Question 2. Mr. Mason asks 240 year 11 students what they want to do next year. Okay, 15% go to college. So work out 15%. I've broken it down into 10 and 5. There's my workings. 3/4 stay at school. So 3/4 is 180. I found a quarter. So 3/4 is when you times it by 3. Added those two up. So 36 at 180 is 216. So how many are left over? Well, there's 24 left over. Question number 3. Do a stem and leaf diagram. I cross them off as I go. A couple of things to note. You've got to put them in order, which I have done, and you must include a key. So you'll get 2 marks for getting this correct, and you get 1 mark for the key. Next one, a little bit of algebra, fairly simple stuff here. Expand the single bracket. Those little loops are just my workings, that's how I do it. So it's 6, add 3t. The next one, 3x times 2x. Is 6x squared, and obviously 3x times 5 is 15, so there you go. Expand and simplify. I use this, which I call the smiley face method. Some people call it FOIL method, which stands for first, outer, inner, last, and you end up with this. I have seen people do a grid method, which is you might have seen when you multiply large numbers like this. What you've got to do now is simplify either one of these. So basically gather the m's together. So you'll end up with m squared, add 13m, because there's 3m there and 10m there, add 30 at the end. Question number 5. Write down 525 as a product of its prime factors. There's a few ways of doing this, but you'll get the same answer. I noticed 21 and 25 go into it, so you follow this down. Circle the primes at the bottom whenever you get to a prime number, so that's what I've done. So it's 3 times 5 times 5 times 7. Or a better way of writing it is 3 times 5 squared times 7. Next one, Ed has 4 cards. There is a number on each card. The mean of the 4 numbers on Ed's cards is 10. Work out the number on this question mark. Well, I probably shouldn't put a question mark there because that's what's there, but you're trying to find out what goes up here because we're finding the mean. To work out the mean, it's the total divided by how many you've got, so it's 4 cards, equals 10, because we're told that's what the mean is. So what would go up here? Well, it must be 40. So add these up, adds up to 33. So what must you add to 33 to get 47? So this card will be 7. Question 7. Next one. Translate p by the vector 5 minus 2. 5 means, the top one means go across, the bottom one means go up or down. So it shifts across 5 and down 2. And it's down 2 because it is negative. I count each point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and down 2 and put a little cross. I've shaded mine in just so you can see it. The next one, describe the transformation that maps A onto B. 3 marks, it's a rotation, it's 180 degrees, which is half a turn. If it's half a turn, you don't have to say which direction it goes in because it'll be the same either way. And it is around 0.01 because that is the center of rotation there. You can check it with some tracing paper if you like, which I have here. So pop that on top. sketch around it. This is one of the questions in the exam which you really need to get full marks on, because you can actually check your answer. So look, sketched around it, 0, 1, there we go, and 180 degrees, so half a turn. There you go, ends up on there. So 3 marks. Next question. This is about estimating. Margaret has some goats. The goats produce on average 21.7 litres of milk per day for 280 days, and she sells milk in half-litre bottles. Estimate the total number of bottles that Margaret will be able to fill with the milk. You must clearly show your workings. What I've done here, I've estimated 21.7, I've rounded down to 20, 280, I've rounded up to 300, which is fine. So I'm going to work out how many litres of milk she gets, which is 6,000. I've divided by a half, so 6,000 divided by a half is 12,000. So 12,000 is your answer. Next one. Matt and Dan cycle around a track. Matt can cycle around in 50 seconds, so that's what I've done here. Dan in 80 seconds. They start cycling at the same time at the start line. Work out how many laps, after how many laps, they will have each cycled when they cross the start line together. I've gone down here in multiples of 50 for Matt, multiples of 80 for Dan, and they'll meet up again when it gets to 400. So for Matt, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and for Dan, it's 5. Question number 10. The diagram shows a garden in the shape of a rectangle. All measurements are in meters. The perimeter is 32 meters. Work out the value of x. So the perimeter is around the outside. So I've done, and you can see it here, 4x add 3, add x add 6, add 4x add 3, add x add 6 equals 32. I've simplified it, so I've gathered my x's together, which there's 8 of them. Then I've counted up my numbers, and that comes up to 20. So it's 8x add 20 equals 32. Then I've basically solved this little equation, so by taking 20 off, then I've divided by 8. Because it's non-calculator, this is a bit fiddly. It goes to 12 over 8 as a fraction, because I couldn't, well, I could, but 12 divided by 8, some people struggle with. So what I've done, I've shown it here as a fraction, then I've simplified it here, and 3 over 2, you should be able to notice you can convert to 1.5, so x equals 1.5 meters. Don't forget to say equals 1.5 meters, because you will get 1 mark for the units here, because it's a 4-mark question. One of them is for putting the units in. Question 11, next one. Distance time graph, here we go. Debbie drove a couple of junctions on a motorway, and there's a graph of her journey. So Debbie's line is drawn for you. Ian drove the similar distance, and he's got an average of 66 kilometers an hour. Now, because this doesn't go up to a whole hour, it only goes up to half an hour, if he can drive 66 kilometers in 1 hour, in half an hour, which is 30 minutes, he can drive 33 kilometers. So in half an hour, I've marked off 33 kilometers for Ian. I've drawn his line and shown it. Who has the fastest speed? Well, I've worked out that Debbie has the fastest speed because she travelled 30 kilometers in 24 minutes. And if you look at 30 kilometers in 24 minutes up there, and it took Ian 27 minutes, which is there. So Debbie travelled faster. Next one, on the grid, draw the graph of y equals a half x, add 5. For the values of x is -2 to 4. People don't tend to like this because they don't draw the little graph at the top for you, the little table for you rather, but just put your values of x in like I've done. I haven't bothered to draw a table because there's no point. Here's my values of y. I always do the whole, start up with the positive numbers here. So a half x add 5. So y equals a half of 4 add 5. So a half of 4 is 2, add 5 is 7. Half of 2 is 1, add 5 is 6. I've got my whole numbers, then I've worked out my decimal numbers, which is fairly straightforward. You plot these coordinates on the graph. So for example, I again always start from this side because it's positive. The coordinate 4, 7, you go along 4 and up 7, you plot it there, and it will make a straight line. 3 marks for that one. Question 13. Here's a map. The position of a ship S is marked on the map. Zoom in so you can see that. So there's the ship. There's a scale here, 1 centimetre is 500 metres, which is fine. Point C is on a coast. Ships must not sail closer to 500 points to point C, 500 metres, and the ship sails on a bearing of 037. If you're familiar with bearings, you'll know that you always start measuring from the north line, which I've drawn on for you. 037 is 37 degrees, so you take out the protractor and measure 37 degrees, which I have done there. Then I've drawn off the direction the ship is going to travel at, is along that line. What I've done then is it's got my compass and I've got a ruler. It says that you must not sail closer than 500 metres. Well, according to the scale, that'd be 5 centimetres. So I've measured out my compass to be 5 centimetres. I'll zoom in to make sure you can see what I'm up to. There you go. That's a little bit small. Perfect, brilliant. So what you do now is go to this point here, put your compass on. I hope this is roughly the same size. You draw your line on. It's a little bit different from what I did yesterday, but you can clearly see that yes, the ship will sail closer than 500 metres. It says explain your answer. As long as you write yes at the bottom, like I've done, that is your explanation there, your diagram at the top. Next one, question 14. Represent this inequality on a number line. The inequality is there minus 2, n, is greater than minus 2 or less than or equal to minus 3. That little second line there means the equal to bit. So what you do, draw a couple of circles on minus 2 and 3. Because it's greater than minus 2, you leave it hollow or leave it not filled in. And because it could be equal to 3, you shade it in. So it should look something like that. The one underneath, you've got to solve the inequality. This is basically like solving an equation. So the first thing I've done is replace the inequality sign with an equal sign. Then I just worked through it. I've got rid of that 3 by adding it to both sides. I've got the x's on one side by taking off 6x. So I'm left with 2x equals 7. So divide it by 2. So x equals 7 divided by 2. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So x is 3.5, but the very bit at the end, put that inequality sign back in. So that's how you do that. Next one sheet of paper is 9 times 10 to the minus 3 centimetres thick. Mark wants to put 500 sheets of paper into the printer tray of his printer. The tray is 4 centimetres deep. Is the paper tray deep enough? Well, you've got to get your 500 and you've got to multiply it by the thickness of the bit of paper. It's non-calculated, but you can still do this fairly simply. You do this sum here. 500 times 9 times 10 to the minus 3. 500 times 9 is 4,500. Obviously times 10 to the minus 3. That times 10 to the minus 3 means you move the decimal point back 3 spaces this way, so it ends up to be 4.5 centimetres. So no, his paper tray is not deep enough. It says explain. There's my explanation there, some clear workings. Question number 16. The normal price of a television is reduced by 30% in a sale. The sale price is £350. Work out the normal price. Well, if it's been reduced by 30%, that means £350 represents 70% of the total cost, or the original cost. So I've written 350 equals 70%. I've gone to the percentages side and I've divided by 7 to get it down to 10%. Then I've times by 10 to get it up to 100%. Excuse me. I've done the same the other side and it's come out to be £500. So £500 is 100% of the cost. Question 17. Next one. There's a pond and he's going to empty it and all the rest of it. But let's work out the volume of the pond first, because that's something we need to do. What I've done to work out the volume of the pond, I've split it up into 2 different shapes. There are other ways of doing it, but I find this one's the easiest to explain. First of all, this length here is 1.3. You know this bit is 0.5 because it says so over here. So this bit must be 0.8. So the area of this rectangle here, the cross section, is 0.5 times 2. Because it's 0.5 times 2. So that's 1 metre squared there. This bottom bit is 0.8 times 2, because it's 0.8 high, it's still 2 across, but because it's a triangle, you divide by 2, so that equals 0.8 metres squared. You've got to add them up, so you get 1.8 metres squared as the cross section, and I've times it by 1 because that is how far the pond goes back. So the volume of the whole pond is 1.8 metres cubed. You'll get at least 2 marks for working that out. Now, we're told that the level of the water goes down by 20 centimetres in 30 minutes. We're going to find out how long it takes to empty the whole pool, but the pond, but we'll do that in a second. So how much has been decreased in 30 minutes? Well, if it's gone down by 20 centimetres, so that's 0.2. So it's gone down here by 0.2. We're going to work out the area of the cross section again. So 0.2 down times 2 is 0.4. Then you times it by the depth. So 0.4 times 1, it goes down by 0.4 metre cubed. So if it takes half an hour to empty that much, how long is it going to take to empty all that lot? Well, I've done it here in the simplest way I think I know. I hope you can see most of that. So 0.4 metres cubed takes 30 minutes, and I've gone up like this. This bit was a bit tricky, because if I added on 0.4 again, I would have got to 2, which is too much. So I added on half of it, which 0.2 metres cubed would take 15 minutes to empty. So I ended up with 2 hours and 15 minutes as my final answer. It's a 6-mark question, but there are lots of ways of picking up marks on that. First of all, just work out the volume of the whole pond. Question 18. Solve the simultaneous equation. Yeah, it's a bit of a fiddly one, this one, but there we go. I want to get my x's the same, so I've timed the top by 3 and the bottom by 4 to make 12x the same. Let me cover something up a moment. Right, here it is. Ignore that arrow for a second, and that's what you end up with, because you times the top row by 3, so 12x, add 21y equals 3, bottom row by 4, 12x, add 40y is 60. I'm going to take away, to get rid of my x's, but I notice if I do 21 take away 40 and 3 take away 60, I'll end up with minus numbers, which is a pain. So what I've done, I've shifted this one at the top, just down the bottom. So now what I would do in my workings, and what I'll do for you now, is just put a gentle line through this to show we don't need it anymore. Don't completely obliterate it, because it is part of your workings, but I've just shown that. So now I'm taking away, 40 take away 21 is 19, 60 take away 3 is 57, divide both sides by 19, and you get y equals 3. That's 2 marks. Now substitute y equals 3 into one of the equations. I've chosen this one at the top. If y equals 3, so 7 3s are 21, the 1 stays the same. So something, add 21, gives you 1, and it's minus 20. So 4x is minus 20, divide both sides by 4, x will be equal to minus 5. You can, again, go back up the top and you can check that with the other one, and you'll find it works out correct. Next one, underneath, write the numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest. I think you can see the whole question on here, but I'll talk you through it. 5 to the minus 1 means 1 over 5, so it's 1 over 5, or it's 0.2, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do them in fractions or whole numbers yet. 0.5 is a half, minus 5 is minus 5, and anything to the power 0 is 1. So 5 to the power 0 is 1. So the smallest one we've got up here is minus 5, so I'm writing the original minus 5. The next one is a fifth, so I write down 5 to the minus 1. The next one is 0.5, so I write 0.5. And the next one is 5 to the power 0, which is 1, so I write 5 to the power 0. Please write the original numbers at the top. Do not write the ones you've converted them into. You must write the original numbers at the top. Question 20, a little bit of Pythagoras and surds mixed in here. This is quite a nasty question, and you have to spot it's Pythagoras. You've got to work out an expression in terms of x for the area of the triangle. Give your expression in its simplest form. We are told m's the midpoint, so that must be 2x, that must be 2x, because the whole lot there is 4x. If that's x, then that must be 3x, and the whole bottom thing is 4x. So use Pythagoras to calculate the lengths, because eventually we're going to do base times height divided by 2. So we need to work out bm, then we're going to work out mn, but using Pythagoras. So bm, so this line here we're going to be doing first of all, is a squared add b squared equals c squared. And this line here, bm, is the c squared. So here's my workings. A squared add b squared, c squared. 4x squared, because that's 4x. Add 2x squared, because that's 2x, equals c squared. Work this through. You'll get c squared is 20x squared. Square root both sides. You get c equals the square root of 20x. So if I wanted, I could write in here the square root of 20x, like that. I'm going to do the same for this one up here, but I'm working out mn. I'm I've written in my workings, I'm working out dm. I'm not, I'm working out nm, so I will quickly change that for you. nm, there we go. Same thing, you've got the workings up there, comes out to, have a quick flick through that. C is the square root of 5x. So if I wanted to, I could write in here the square root of, well, I've not got a lot of room, but 5x. Sorry, that's a bit small. There we go, just in case you want to have a proper look. So what you're going to do now, the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Might be easy if you actually turn it around that way. So you can see there's your base, root 20x, there's your height, root 5x. And this is what I've done over here. Oh, I've drawn it out again, there we are. Area of the triangle is that. So it's the base is 20x times root 20x times root 5x divided by 2. 20 times 5 is 100. X times x is x squared divided by 2. The square root of 100 is 10. So that's where I've got 10x squared from, divided by 2. And half 10 is 5. So the answer is 5x squared. That is a lot of work, I think, for 4 marks. But if you recognise it's Pythagoras, have a go at it. Question 21. You've got to draw a cumulative frequency diagram. First thing you have to do is you have to add your own cumulative frequency column, which is what I've done here. You add it up as you go down, and the cumulative frequency diagram will look like this. This is a fairly basic one, to be honest with you. There it is. Plot your points. Make sure your line, the mark scheme says, follows the general trend and goes through every cross. So do not just miss a cross. Go through the middle of every single cross. Do not draw a line like this, because when you're trying to do a curve, the most tempting thing is to go like that. They do not like that, because that is called feathering, and mathematically it is not accurate because you can't tell exactly where the line is. So just, doesn't matter if it's a little bit wobbly, just go through every point and follow the general trend. The median, as you can see there, is the 30th one, so it's 171. The upper quartile, you come out from 45, and the lower quartile, you come out from 15. So the interquartile range is 177, take away 166, which is 11. You will get 6 marks for that question. It's near the back of the paper, and I think there's 6 marks everybody should be getting. Cumulative frequency diagrams tend to be quite an easy topic, and this is all the easy stuff about it. Right, this next one is a bit nasty. Let me try and explain how to do them. What I've done at the top is I've noticed that these prisms, by the way, are mathematically similar. So that length there is 6, that length there is 12. So that's doubling. So the rule you've got to remember is that if the length doubles, the area will times by 4 and the volume will be multiplied by 8. And this is why. The area just doubles, that's fine. But the length doubles, which is fine. But the area is the square of what happens here. So 2 squared is 4. The volume is the cube of what happens here. So it's times by 8, because 2 cubed is 8. If you imagine, if the timesing by the length was, say, 9, or sorry, if you're timesing by 3, so that was 6, that was 18, you would times by 3, so the area would be times by 9, and the volume would be 27, because you cube it. Anyway, 2 ways of doing this, and I've shown you both of them here. Oh, by the way, we need to work out the volume of prism Q. I think that's probably worth mentioning. I've drawn that 30 on because I can spot that straight away. Method 1, work out the volume of the small prism. So the volume of the small prism is the area of the cross section, which is 10 times 15 is 150 centimetres cubed, and I've worked out at the top to go from volume to volume, you multiply by 8. So 150 times 8 is 1,200 centimetres cubed. That's one way of doing it. The other way is to find out the length of the larger prism, which I've done, because I've noticed it doubles, so it's 30, and that's something I've shown you up here. The next thing you've got to do is work out the area of the cross section. Now area times by 4, so 10 times 4, that will be 40 centimetres squared. So now I know the area of the cross section and the length. I just multiply them together, 40 times 30, which is 1,200 centimetres cubed. So you get the same answer both ways. It's a 4-mark question. You do get a mark for putting the correct units. So even if you don't know the answer, put centimetres cubed and you should get a mark for it. Next one, only 2 marks, but it's not actually too bad, this one. Yeah, you've got to first thing I did when I tried to work this out was expand the top brackets, and it turns out you didn't have to do that. You've got to factorise the bottom bracket, and this is what you do. Do your two brackets, put x and x at the start. What two numbers multiply to make negative 15 but add up to make 2? Well, it's 5 and minus 3. So there you go. So you've got 4x add 5 over x add 5, brackets x add 3, and you'll notice, well, you can cancel that. Question 24 is histograms. The first thing you do when you get to a histogram question is write down this formula. Frequency density is equal to the frequency divided by the class width. That's not in the exam paper, you just need to know that. Go up the top and I'll show you exactly what I've done. Frequency density, I've added at the bottom. The frequency is 12, the class width is 10, so it's 12 divided by 10, sorry. Next one, the frequency is 15, the class width is 5, so 15 divided by 5. 13 divided by 5, 18 divided by 10, 3 divided by 15. I've converted the answers to decimals. I'm hoping you should be able to do that in your head by either simplifying the fractions or various other ways. I've noticed the highest one I got up to is 3, so what I've done in my histogram is done my scale of frequency density, and 3 is the highest. And you just basically fill them in. Frequency density is 1.2, and that's from 0 to 10. So from 0 to 10, it's 1.2 high. From 10 to 15, it's 3 high. From 15 to 20, it's 2.6 high, and so on and so on. And that's 3 marks for your histogram. I've shaded mine in, you don't have to, but it shows up better on the camera. Next one, the expression x squared, take 8x, add 21, can be written in the form x take a squared, add b. For all the values of x. Find the value of a and b. Right, first thing you do, this is called completing the square. So you've got to, because it's squared, you've got to work out x take away a, brackets again, x take away a, because you're timesing it by each other. How are you going to get minus x with the x's? So you need a minus 4 and a minus 4. It's got to be the same because you're squaring it. So you multiply this out. So it gives you x squared, take 8x, add 16. We don't want 16, we want 21, so you need to add on an extra 5. So your a value there is 4, and your b value is 5, because that's what you're adding on. That's what you're adding on extra. Quite a nasty question, that. Underneath is you need to find the minimum points of the curve of that graph. The answer is 4 and 5, and this is why. The y value is always the bit you add on to this bit here, so it turns out to be 5, and the x value is negative whatever this is. Because it's negative 4, negative 4 makes it positive 4, so that's why it's 4, 5. Next one, question 26. It's a probability tree. I'll read the question out, then you can have a quick flick through. I don't think it'll get on one screen, but we'll have a go. There's 10 coins in a bag. There are 3 £1 coins and 7 50p coins. They take 3 coins at random from the bag. Work out the probability she takes £2.50. Right, first coin, £1 and 50p. There's £3, so it's 3 tenths. 50p is 7 over 10. Next lot, there's only 9 coins left in. Last one, there's only 8 coins left in. And I'm going to just scan in, and I'm going to scroll up and down this, so I hope you can see what I've done, because I appreciate it will not show up particularly well on one screen. So that's what your probability tree should look like. Just pause it at any time if you want to have a look. At the end, you can see I've worked out how much it will come to. So if we take 3 £1 coins, it's £3, and so on. £2.50 is this one, and this one. So you've got to multiply across. So to get this, I've done 3 out of 10 times 2 over 9 times 7 over 8, which is that. To get this one, I've done 3 out of 10 times 7 over 9 times 2 over 8, which you get that. What you need to do then is add all those 3 up, and that will give you 126 over 120. And for 4 marks, that's all you need to do. You could simplify it, but it does not ask you to. By this stage, you might be running out of time, so I wouldn't bother wasting time simplifying it. So there's your 4 marks for that one. Next one is a vectors question. The first vectors question tends to be quite easy, so let's have a look. Express NR in terms of A and B. So, no, it isn't. Find SQ. So S is there and Q is there. So go to it. So to go from S to Q, you go back down B and along A. So it's minus B add A. I like switching them around and calling it A minus B because I think that looks a bit neater. 1 mark. Everyone should be able to get that. Right, the next bit, we've got to find out NR. So what I've done, I'm going to go from N to Q, then from Q up to R. So the first bit is N to Q. Well, because of the ratios we're told here, N to Q is 2/5 of this whole length here. We've just worked out this whole length is A take away B. So 2/5 of that length is going to be 2/5 of A take away B. And I've expanded the brackets, so it's 2/5 A take 2/5 B. And to go from Q to R, it's just B, because it's there. So what we need to do now is to do the whole thing together. So we want this one, I've circled, and this one. So 2/5 A, take 2/5 B, add B, simplify it, you get 2/5 A, 2/5 B, add a whole B, comes to be 3/5 B, and I've factorised it here, because a fifth is common, and so on. So the answers you could have is either this one, or the factorised one. The mark scheme actually says this top one, but I think factorising it will be absolutely fine as well. So if you want to put your answer like this, this is fine because they're both the same. Question 28, last one. Write down the coordinates of point A. Point A is here. You're told that this is the graph of y equals cos x. What you need to know is this starts off from 0 degrees and it goes up to 360. So it goes along like this. It goes 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. So the coordinates of point A are 90 and 0, because it's 90 degrees along. You don't go up or down at all. So 90 and 0. On the same diagram, draw a sketch of the graph y equals 2 cos x. And all that 2 cos x is doing is making it twice as high. I suppose you've got to be careful of your wording here. So it's this one I've drawn on. I've labelled the 2 and the minus 2. So it goes through the same points, but it just is a lot taller. So all the way down there and all the way up there. And you get a couple of marks for that. The grade boundaries should be appearing on the screen any second now.